All right, fifth graders, boy, these directions just kind of keep coming. Find the quotient. Once again, we're doing division, but we're stepping it up a little bit today with some two-digit whole number divisors. Now, one of the things that Mr. Swack likes to do with this number that I just find makes it a little bit easier is I take this number and I round it to the greatest place value. 62 rounded to the greatest place value is going to be 60 because the 6 is in the greatest place value. The 2 tells us to round down, and so the 6 is going to stay a 6. The reason I do that is because it allows me to work with smaller numbers. And when I round to 60, I'm going to be utilizing the smaller number 6 throughout this problem. The idea that 62 cannot go into 8, but 62 can go into 88. Now, before I do any division, of course, I'm going to put that decimal straight up because there's no decimal to move here. We'll be talking about that here in our next lesson, but not today for 7.5. So we're looking here at this, and since 6 can go into 8, I'm thinking that the number of times that 6 can go into 8 is the same number of times that 62 can go into 88. Now, this is not a difficult example. We know that 6 can go into 8 one time. So the first thing I'd want to think about is 62 times 1. Well, 62 times 1 is 62. And I know that 62 times 2 is going to give me something bigger than 100 because 60 times 2 is 120. 6 times 2 is 12, plus the 0 is 120. So I'm pretty comfortable putting a 1 there above the 88. 1 times 62 is 62. 88 minus 62, 8 minus 2 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring this 6 down. Now, this is where those smaller numbers start to come into play here because I know that 6 can't go into 2. Now, once again, I ended up with 26 after I subtracted, which I like that because 26 is less than 62. So I know that I've got to figure out now how many times 62 can go into 266. As always, we want to remember that order. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, start over again. And so now I'm at the bring down and I'm at the start over again phase, seeing how many times 62 can go into 266. Well, I'm going to use the smaller number 6 and 26 because I think the number of times that 6 can go into 26 is the same or very close to the same number of times that 62 can go into 266. And what you're trying to avoid is just a whole bunch of multiplication. All right, you're trying to avoid just a whole bunch of multiplication with random numbers with 62 trying to get something close. So I know that 6 can go into 26 4 times. So the first thing I'm going to try is 62 times 4. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 6 is 24. I get 248. Well, I think that's pretty close because 248 is not that far from 266. And if I add another 60, I'm sensing that since 6 times 5 is 30, even 60 times 5 is 300, that it's going to be too high. So I'm going to go ahead and just proceed with 4 and 248. Well, now it's time to subtract. I can't do 6 minus 8. So I borrow from the 6, make it a 5, make that 6 is 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. 5 minus 4 is 1. 2 minus 2 is nothing. I got 18 after I subtracted when I divided by 62. I like that. So then I'm going to go ahead and bring that 6 down. And we're going to go back to the smaller numbers. 18 was less than 62. So I'm back to the smaller numbers of how many times I think 6 can go into 18. Because I think how many ever times 6 can go into 18 is the same number of times that 62 can go into 186. Well, 6 can go into 18 3 times. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try 62 times 3. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 6 is 18. I get 186. And I like that because here's 186. So I'm thinking, well, 62 times 3 is 186. And so I can proceed with confidence. 3, 186. 186 minus 186 is 0. I end up with 1 and 43 hundredths. All right, moving right along, we're going to have a total number of 4 that we do during this video. First thing I want to do is round 47 to the greatest place value. Well, the 4 is in the greatest place value. The 7 is telling me to round up. 5 and higher, we round up. So the 4 is going to become a 5. The 7 is going to become a 0. I'm going to think of 50, smaller number, 5. Now I know that 47 cannot go into 5, but it can go into 56. Before I do any division, of course, though, I want to put my decimal straight up. And I think how many ever times 5 can go into 5 is the same number of times that 47 can go into 56. Well, 5 can go into 5 once. If I think 47 times 1, that's 47. 47 is pretty close to 56. So I'm feeling like if I do times 2, I'm going to end up with 80 or 90 something, because this is over 40. So I'm going to proceed with the idea of 1 and 47. And I'm going to have 56 minus 47. Well, 56 minus 47, can't do 6 minus 7, so I'm going to borrow from the 5, make it a 4, make the 6 a 16. All right. And 16 minus 7 is 9. 4 minus 4 is nothing. I like 9 when I end up with 47, because 9 is less than 47. Now it's time to go ahead and bring the 1 down. And so now I'm seeing how many times 47 can go into 91. Well, 5 can go into 9 one time. I know that 47 times 1 is 47, but that might be kind of close. So just to be safe, we're going to do 47 times 2 and see what that is. 2 times 7 is 14. Put the 4 down, carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus the 1 is 9. I get 94. Well, that's going to be too big because I'm doing 91. So once again, we're going to have another 1. We're going to have a 47. 91 minus 47. I can't do 1 minus 7, so I borrow from the 9. Becomes an 8. That 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 7 is 4. 8 minus 4 is 4. And I'm good with that because 44, even though it's not a lot smaller, it is still smaller than 47. Now it's time to bring this 1 down. All right, and so now I'm thinking how many ever times 5 can go into 44. That's what I want to try first. Well, 5 can go into 44 8 times. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to try 47 times 8 just to see what I get. 8 times 7 is 56. Put the 6 down, carry the 5. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus 5 is 37. Well, that seems like it's a ways away from 441. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try 47 times 9 because I'm sensing that it might be able to go in again. 9 times 7 is 63. Put the 3 down, carry the 6. 9 times 4 is 36. Plus 6 is 42. 423. I like that better. That's pretty close to 441. We can see that we're within 20. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 9 up here. We've seen that 9 times 47 is 423. I can't do 1 minus 3, so I'm going to borrow from the 4, make it a 3, make the 1 an 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. I can't do 3 well, I can do 3 minus 2, that's 1. And I end up with 18, which I like because that's less than 47. But I still have this 8 that I need to bring down, okay? And I'm thinking, well, how many ever times 5 can go into 18? That's how many times 47 can go into 188. Well, I know that 5 can go into 18 3 times. So the first thing I'm going to try is 47 times 3. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. Put the 1 down, carry the 2. 3 times 4 is 12, plus the 2 is 14. I get 141. Well, I'm not totally sure, so just to be safe, because I also want to remember that this is decimal division, and I'm not going to end up with remainders too often, where we're going to have to add zeros sometimes, but most of the time we won't. 4 times, so I'm going to try 4 just to see. 4 times 7 is 28. Put the 8 down, carry the 2. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. I like that. I get the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and with confidence put my 4 there. We figured out that 4 times 47 is 188. 188 minus 188 is 0. All right, we got a couple more here. This first one, 251 and 94 hundredths divided by 19. Well, 19 is going to round to 20. Okay, so we have the 1. The 9 tells us that we're going to round up, so the 1s are going to become a 2. So I'm going to think of the smaller number 2. And I know that 19 can't go into 2, but it can go into 25. Before I put anything up there, I want to go ahead and put my decimal. And I'm going to think how many ever times 2 can go into 2 is how many times 19 can go into 25. Well, 2 can go into 2 once. I know that 19 times 1 is 19, which is pretty close to 25. So I'm going to proceed with confidence here. 1 times 19 is 19. I'm going to borrow from the 2, make it a 1, make the 5 a 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. 1 minus 1 is nothing. I end up with 6. I'm dividing by 19. I like that because 6 is less than 19. Bring down the 1. 2 can go into 6 3 times. So the first thing I want to try is 19 times 3. Well, 3 times 9 is 27. Put the 7 down, carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 57. That's pretty close to 61, and it's less. So I'm liking that. 3, 57. It's time to subtract. I can't do 1 minus 7, so I'm going to borrow from the 6, make it a 5. 11 minus 7 is 4. 5 minus 5 is nothing. I like 4. It's less than 19. I'm going to go ahead and bring this 9 down, because of course we don't ever want to forget. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, start over again. All right, so see how many times 19 can go into 49. Well, 2 can go into 4 twice. So I'm going to try 19 times 2. I already know that 19 times 3 is too big, because 19 times 3 is 57. So if I come over here and try 19 times 2, 2 times 9 is 18. Put the 8 down, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I get 38. Well, I know that 3 is too big, so I have to feel pretty confident with the 2 and the 38. 9 minus 8 is 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. I get 11. That's less than 19. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right. And so I go ahead and I bring down my last number, the 4. And I'm thinking, well, 2 can go into 11 5 times. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try 19 times 5. Well, 5 times 9 is 45. Put the 5 down, carry the 4. 5 times 1 is 5, plus the 4 is 9. I get 95. Well, I'm not sure. That's pretty close. So, yeah, let's go ahead and go with that. So, we're going to go ahead and put a 5 there. We're going to put 95 here. We're going to subtract. I can't do 4 minus 5, so I'm going to borrow from the 1, make it a 0. Make that 4 a 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. Can't do 0 minus 9, so I'm going to borrow from the 1, make that a 0, make that 0 a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. Well, now I have a problem because 19 is not less than 19. And fifth graders, sometimes that's going to happen to you. Okay? And you've got to be willing to fix that problem when that happens. So I need to go back, all the way back here, to where the 49 minus 38 was 11, and I brought down the 4, and I've got to get rid of this 5 up there. Because since I ended up with 19 left over, that was too small. So I have to try 19 times 6. 6 times 9 is 54. Put the 4 down, carry the 5. 6 times 1 is 6, plus the 5 is 11. That makes a little more sense. So we're going to put a 6 up here, a 114 down here. When I subtract those, I get 0. All right, my final answer, 13 and 26 hundredths. Last one, 191 and 1/10 divided by 91. Well, the 91 is going to get rounded to 90. I'm going to think about the smaller number 9. The 9 is in the greatest place value. The 1 tells me to round down, so that becomes a 0. The 91 becomes 90. 91 can't go into 1. It can't go into 19, but it can go into 191. Of course, before I put any numbers up there, I want to put my decimal. 9 can go into 19 twice, because 9 times 2 is 18. So the first thing I want to try is 91 times 2, because 9 can go into 19 twice. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 9 is 18. I like the looks of that. This 2 and 182. All right. I can't do 1 minus 2, but I can borrow from the 9. Make that an 8. Make that 1 and 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. 8 minus 8 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I just end up with 9 when I do 191 minus 182. And I'm okay with that because I'm dividing by 91. Well, I like the looks of this because when I bring down the 1, I just get 91. I can be pretty confident to say 91 can go into 91 one time. 1 times 91 is 91. 91 minus 91 is 0. All right, that's some more division for you today, 5th grade. We'll talk to you later. Bye.